When did you write your eulogy first?
I wrote my eulogy about 10 years ago.
What did that do for you when you did it?
It gave me incredible clarity about what my life needs to become. Incredible clarity. Yeah, writing my eulogy told me what direction my life needed to go. And I read it, I edit it pretty frequently.
How is it different from 10 years ago to now?
No, it's completely different. In 10 years, I've realized how much a human being can do. And they were small visions 10 years ago, and now they are not small visions.
Really? What were they like 10 years ago?
Oh, it's like, get out of debt, maybe write a book someday. Now it's fix the government.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Change the world.
Yeah, change the world.
Wow.
So and those are all 100% completely doable.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that we can do in our lifetimes.
Wow. So how often do you read it?
About 4 times, 3 to 5 times a week, but about 4 times. Actually, there's software that my team has created, and you can click I read my eulogy, and it will literally count the number of times you've done it.
That's pretty
so
cool.
So it gamifies it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's important to read it frequently?
There's 2 reasons. One is, as I said earlier, it directs your life. 2, and this is an even bigger reason, it reminds you that you're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
There's something unbelievably sobering about recognizing the fact that your story is going to end, you're going to leave the planet, and you're not coming back.
Yeah.
You're not coming back.
I think it's the country of Bhutan that is the happiest country in the world. And one of the reasons that they say is because they think about their death either 3 or 5 times a day. They think about their death many times a day, and they're considered the happiest country in the world. There's actually an app called We Croak that reminds you.
How much time you got?
It reminds you 3 or 5 times a day, you're going to die. It says you're going to die, and then it gives you
I love that app.
And it gives you an inspirational quote to reflect on the positive of life. So
I didn't know about that app, but I love that idea.
It's called We Croak. I think it's called We Croak or We Croak. And it's just a simple little app, just pings you 3 times a day.
There's my guys, my development team, I've asked them, and it's up to them, I don't control them, but I've asked them, do you think on the eulogy page you can actually have a countdown timer based on the average life expectancy of the country that you live in?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I think
you know how much time I've got left?
You said 30 years, right?
Yeah, 2 Lucys. 2 Lucys.
2 Lucys?
Mm-hmm. Lucy was my chocolate lab.
Oh, man.
And she lived to be 14 years old. And my wife called her my first wife because Lucy and I were married before Betsy and I were married.
Oh, man.
And we put her down 2 Saturdays ago.
Oh, man.
And it was absolutely heartbreaking. Oh. And when I sit there...
I met Lucy, I think, when I came to
you did.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And, and
I think we have photos with you and Lucy, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Lucy was a rock star. I mean, I took her. Man. She was literally my companion. She taught me so much about it. She got me to Betsy. And then she got Betsy and I to Emmeline.
Oh, man.
And she had a big tumor, terrible arthritis, and finally the vet said, look, you're hitting that point where you're actually punishing her to keep her alive any longer. So I made the right decision.
Wow, 15 years though, huh?
Yeah, a little over 14 years.
Oh, man.
So when I think about when I brought Lucy home to when we said goodbye to Lucy, so much happened, Lewis. But the reality is, I have 2 more of those.
That's insane to think about.
Like, I can get 1 more puppy, and I'll have the same painful and beautiful and wonderful experience, and then one after that, and then we will be put down together.
Oh my God.
It's over.
I mean, if you could extend your life longer, that's great. Maybe you have 3 is what you're saying. Like if
I can't get it, maybe. I mean, they invent some sort of drug or whatever. But yeah.
What's the life expectancy?
78.5, and I'm hoping to make 80, and everything else is icing on the cake.
Right.
Know a lot of people who are in their hundreds. I don't think I'm going to be one of them, but a lot of people, we might be able to make it. But
wow, 2 Lucys. Yeah, there's a guy. Do you know Nas Daily? Have you heard of this guy? He's a video creator who did a video a day for like 1,000 days in a row, and he's got 50 or 100 million followers on Facebook and Instagram, and creates all these viral videos around the world explaining different things. And he wears the same T-shirt every day, the exact same shirt. He's probably got 100 of them, but it says 34% of life left, or he's used 34% of his life. So every year he adds percentage in the same shirt reminds people watching him and reminds himself how much of his life he has
And
lived.
and it creates amazing wisdom, doesn't it?
And it creates urgency, and,
Yes.
it focuses you on what's important and your mission and your goals, and you don't live distracted if you're like, well, I've lived a certain percentage, I only have this much left. So that attention on the eulogy or the shirt or whatever is, or the We Croak app, something to have our attention on our death, I'm hearing you say is important.
It is. And, there's something, Betsy and I just made a decision the other day. I can't remember what the opportunity was, but it was a really big financial opportunity. And we said, look, it's one day that you don't get to see your daughter. Is it worth it? And even this, I'm in LA, I live in Nashville, flew out this morning, I'll be in bed tonight. I will see her tonight.
Yeah.
Because you just go, but, if we didn't die, yeah, of course I'm going to go make that money.
Right.
You got forever.
Yeah.
So it creates this real beauty of urgency. And it also, you start going, well, if I'm going to die and I can't take any money with me, maybe I should pay my employees more. Right? Maybe I should go not chase that money, because the reality is, what I want is Emmeline to when she's 80, to go to Goose Hill and explain to her children and her grandchildren what happened here. And if I'm on an airplane, what needs to happen here for her to do that won't happen. So I got to be home.
Right.
And without death, I don't think I would have that realization.
And without her, you probably would have gone and did the money thing or whatever, and been gone for the day, because you've been like, well, there's no child here, so I can go and make this money. And
yeah, and there's
there's
not
seasons
only
of
that,
life
but there's
too.
just practical stuff, life insurance policies,
Yeah.
preparing financially. Emmeline will live to be. They're saying our kids are going to live into their hundreds.
It's crazy.
That's where technology's going. So if I make it to 80, Emmeline's 30 when I pass away. She's going to do 70 years without dad.
Wow.
70. By the time she dies, she will not really remember what I look like.
Oh my gosh.
She will have altogether 12 seconds worth of memories at one time of the 30 years that I spent with her.
12 seconds. Why is that? That's what the brain
Think
can
about the time right now. Think about
Yeah.
the seconds that you can remember spending with your dad.
Isn't that crazy?
They're just little moments, like when he passed you the popcorn at the game.
Right,
They're just literally these little milliseconds. I'm not going to risk a chance to
Wow.
create some of those, embed those in her brain. It's not worth it.
What do you think is the biggest mistake you've made?
That I've made? Thought of myself as a victim for 10 years.
Really?
Lost a decade. Yeah, I lost a decade.
Which 10 years?
Certainly very late teens through late 20s. I did get 2 books out during that time, so victims don't get books done.
Right.
But I was 387 pounds. I'm 210 now.
That's amazing.
Thanks.
Congrats.
And do you know what? One of the main reasons I was 387 pounds? I was subconsciously convinced that if my life were so miserable and I couldn't control myself, a rescuer would come and help me.
Wow.
And when I realized, what happened? That
You were the
was-
rescuer.
Well, partly. But what happened was I suddenly realized that chicks didn't like victims.
Right.
And everything went, we're done being a victim, because I really would like to have some nice conversations with some girls.
Yeah.
And when you realize, like, everything that you think you're going to get by thinking of yourself as a victim, you're not going to get. The person who gets that is the person who's actually heroic. Who's humble, honest, and willing to transform. Realizes they don't have the capability to get this thing done. And so they transform. What I don't like, or I'm not super comfortable with, are books and ideas that say you are enough. You're not enough. If you are an unhealthy person, you're not enough to be in a healthy relationship. You have to change. What we're trying to avoid there is judgment. But here's the key. Let's admit we're not enough and leave the judgment out of it. Let's admit, you know what? I'm not enough to be in a healthy relationship, but I get to change. And changing is fun, and it's exciting, and I can't wait to see who I become. But, we have to hold this idea that we're not there yet and a lack of judgment at the same time.
Yeah.
And then we have
like
this
that.
really fun, meaningful life in which we get to transform.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you're not enough. I would say it's okay to not be enough. But you're not enough. Yeah, instead of saying, like, you are enough and you've got everything, Let's actually say you're not enough, and that's okay.
Yeah, I like
Do
that.
you want to change? Yeah, I want to change. Okay, well, let's go on a journey together.
And it sounds like, yeah, you're not enough, and this is where maybe the story begins.
That's exactly it.
You're not enough. It's okay. You don't need to beat yourself up.
You are
don't need
not
to judge
enough.
yourself.
So what does that make possible?
Right.
It makes a beautiful story possible when you become enough.
Right. What you can overcome. It just
Yeah.
means you have an opportunity to overcome something.
Can you imagine if The King's Speech, which won an Oscar,
Great movie.
great movie. Can you imagine The King's Speech? You know, he speaks with a slight stutter, and the drama teacher meets with him once, and the stutter's gone.
Right.
The movie does not win an Oscar.
Right.
Great stories that we get to experience are stories about us overcoming deficiencies.
Right. Challenges.
So thank God you have a deficiency. Now you have an opportunity to make something really cool happen in your life. You know, and to get to experience it, not just watch it, get to actually experience it.
So you think the biggest mistake was being a victim for 10 years. What was the biggest lesson you learned about yourself in those 10 years?
Well, I mean, you know, the biggest lesson I learned about myself is if you think about yourself as a victim, there is no happiness.
Do victims get a benefit from being a victim?
Yeah, they attract resources. They shirk responsibility. Other people have to do their work. That's the attractiveness of being a victim. And if you learn, both victimhood and villainy are coping mechanisms. They're how we cope with really hard things. Neither of them are productive. The only thing that's productive is saying, okay, this is a hard thing. I accept it. I accept the dynamics that are in play here. I do not deny them. I do not reject them. Let me grieve a second. Now let me engage heroically and transform into the person that it takes to conquer this thing. And that could take years, you know. Brain has a very difficult time telling the difference between fiction and nonfiction. And so you can tell the brain some really absurd stuff that actually just makes no sense. But it's very hard for somebody's brain to, once they hear the story feels really entertaining and really clean. Therefore, it's got to be true, right?
And it takes probably a long time to make it untrue.
It takes a long time to unravel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.